Hi everyone! So my presentation is going to be all video, and then I'm just going to describe what I deem to be appropriate and inappropriate because I'm not really good with video editing, so I don't know how to add clips and stuff like that. But first I want to start talking about kind of where I'm from and how my parents are, because my parents did raise me in a Catholic church, and they're both Catholic. I was baptized, First Communion, confirmation in the Catholic Church, and I was brought up to go to church every Sunday, stuff like that. And I always like to call them traditional Catholics because they're very much like by the book, literally like the Bible book. Sorry, it was a bad joke. But anyway, so that's kind of where I was from. And then I also wanted to mention that like my ancestors are from Germany, like not my immediate family, but my, I think, great grandma and grandpa were from Germany, and then we have a little bit of Czech in our bloodline as well. So just going off of that, the only dancing that I was ever exposed to as a kid was the Grand March, which is a traditional wedding dance, and you just kind of dance with a partner, like side by side with a partner, and you go in a circle, and then the bride and groom end up in the middle, and that's when they have their first dance. So my family's really big into that tradition. They still do it to this day. And then the only other dancing that I've ever seen, like especially from my parents, would be like two-stepping and waltz and polka, and even that wasn't like ballroom style, it was more like lax. But I just feel like there wasn't, my parents never talked about, and I feel like the Catholic Church either never talked about what was deemed appropriate and inappropriate as far as dancing. Like, I feel like they never talked about dancing ever. And the only time I've ever seen my parents dance is at weddings and stuff like that. So, I just, it was never talked about, but I definitely think that there is, like, an unspoken rule, and especially, Catholics they preach abstinence, so, anything with sexual content is kind of, like, a big no-no. And so I feel like even when my parents did dance, like, you hold the shoulders and you hold like the middle of the back, like you don't slide your hand down too far, you don't press up against them too much, you have that like good space in between you. And it was never talked, like I said, it was never talked about, but that's how I've always seen it done, and so that's what I thought was correct. And I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not saying it's right. But I definitely think that the church, and especially, like, my parents, like, not making me, but my parents taking me to church every Sunday and then, like, preaching to me as well, has made me think that any kind of dance with sexual content is deemed inappropriate. So for example, like dancing that has okay, so for example, like twerking, or like dancing super close on one another, like especially like so front and then to back, like that kind of dancing. I hope you like my hand demonstrators. So I feel like that kind of dancing where you're like rubbing up on each other, that's so uncomfortable to say, but you kind of get the picture. Things usually done at the square, for example. I always thought that was like kind of inappropriate, and I still think it's inappropriate, but I don't think it's inappropriate for other people. So what I'm trying to get at is that just because I wouldn't do something doesn't mean that I think that it's inappropriate for other people to do it. That's just not how I was raised, and that's not what I'm gonna do. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong for other people to do it. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear so I don't sound so judgy and awful because I realize how this sounds. But I do think that like my views about the body in general, and especially my body, have been skewed because you don't talk about the body, you don't touch the body, and I feel like it's just like anything that has to do with sexuality and about the body is just kind of like a weird subject to talk about, and I think that's really wrong, and I wish that like my parents would have not taught that to me, because now I feel like weird about my own body. Not that I feel weird about my body, but I just feel kind of uncomfortable in certain situations, like going and dancing at the square, because people want to dance with me and I'm like, no, thank you. So like that would be an example of like how I feel like kind of negatively towards my body. Like I feel like I can't express my sexuality no matter what it is, because like sexuality wasn't really talked about, and just I don't know, I feel like they've made the body out to be like some wrong, dirty thing, and everybody has one, so what's the problem with it? But so especially when it comes to dancing, I feel like dancing's kind of intimate, and so like having to do with the body and like sexual content and then like the intimacy of dancing, it's just kind of like Catholics would be like, I don't think so, like even if they're not gonna say it out loud. But that's kind of like how I thought of it as a child. Like dancing on each other was wrong, dancing sexually is wrong. Now because I've moved out and stuff like that, and come to San Marcos and experience different things and different types of people, I definitely think that there's really no wrong and right. People are going to live their own life. People are going to do what they want to do. But that doesn't mean that I have to do something that I'm uncomfortable with. And so I feel like what's inappropriate for me can be acceptable for somebody else, and I'm okay with that, and I'm okay, like I accept that it's appropriate for them just because it's not for me. So that's kind of what I deem to be appropriate and inappropriate. I hope that makes sense. I know I kind of rambled, and I'm sorry. But anyway, I will see you guys in class.